Hi, I'm Jaclyn.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
Welcome to our spring recording session where we both have pollen in our lungs and nasal
Navels.
I mean, probably there too. Probably there too, but our nasal cavities. Mm-hmm. And so if we sound a little sniffly, probably going to have to edit out a bunch of hacking coughs. But, it's springtime. So, you have to put the good with the bad.
And, yeah. I do promise if a sniffle is there and we can edit it out, we will, because a lot of podcasts don't, and it makes me want to chop my ears off.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before, but we're a two-person, have other full-time jobs and families and lives and everything, and we can manage to edit out these sniffles. So I don't understand why these full productions with hired staff cannot do so. I don't know.
I guess maybe it's just not a priority, and maybe it doesn't bug them as much as it bugs me.
Yeah.
Let us know if it bothers you. Is this a personal thing? Or is this just an all around the boards? Do you hear it? Or are you I've never heard a sniffle?
Or a throat clearing, especially when the other person's talking. I just don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah. Not a fan. But we're going to try our hardest to sniffle where it can't be edited, and hopefully our voices last because, just settles right in your throat, that pollen.
Yeah. And I also, I can't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I was at the doctor, I don't know, 6 months ago now, for allergy, congestion, is this COVID or not kind of thing. And it was just allergies. And she's like, oh, well, because I said I take Allegra every day. And she's like, well, how often do you switch up the type of allergy medicine that you take? Because it's only effective for so long because your body built an immunity to it. She's like, you should switch brands every 6 months. And I was like, oh, I've been on it for 12 years.
So it was doing nothing.
Yes, exactly. So I switched and I'm on a different one now, and I guess it's coming up on time to switch back. So, yeah, which apparently, in case you needed to know, Allegra and Claritin are breastfeeding safe, but Zyrtec is not. So I don't know what's different in the ingredients for that one. And by safe, I mean it could dry up your milk, not safe as in it's harmful. But yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Very interesting. So, if this recording is pretty close to the release, we're only a week ahead at this point, guys. You're not having to hear updates from
exciting.
Too long ago. But if you have been on social media at all in the past week, you know that the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial is going on, and boy, is it a doozy from what I've seen. And I'm convinced she got her lawyers off of, a Craigslist ad. Have you seen the video? Have you seen any of the videos of
I've seen nothing. I know what's going on. I've been on vacation for the past week and have not spent a lot of time online, which has been nice. And I've seen big headlines, but I've not dived into it or seen any videos or anything.
I'll give you the quote unquote highlights so far. Okay. Her lawyer, anytime anyone would say something, would object and say hearsay, even to a question he asked. So he'd be like, so you went to the bar? And Johnny Depp would be like, yeah, I went to that. Hearsay. Objection. Hearsay. So it's a joke. People are making hearsay shirts because literally there's just videos of him saying it.
Wow.
Just, they look like bumbling idiots. They had a psychologist on stand who was literally just they were like, oh, you said this, correct? And she was like, no, I didn't say that. There was a whole muffin debate because she was like, you told your husband you were having a meeting with Amber Heard. And she was like, no, my husband picked up muffins and I told her, you can thank my husband for these muffins because he got them. That's it.
Wow.
It is a mess, but it is also very, very sad listening. There was a recording coming out being of her saying oh yeah, go ahead and try to tell people you're a victim of domestic abuse. No one's going to believe you. You're a man. No one's going to believe you. So
wow.
That part is very heartbreaking and
yeah,
very, very sad. And she shit in his bed and complained because his old friends would come over and they'd play guitar. I don't know. It sounds like a mess.
Wow.
That relationship sounds like not great. So it's not funny. I mean, Johnny Depp is laughing during some of these trials.
Yeah.
She's also copying whatever he wears. So like one day he wore like this little bee thing on his tie, and she wore one the next day, and then he'd wear like a ponytail and she'd wear one the next day. Like, it's wild. It's weird.
Wow. But I need to dig deeper into this because I've been missing out on a lot apparently.
If you like are scrolling on TikTok and see any of like the video clips, like watch them, because they are kind of funny, of just like Johnny Depp being like what? Like, one, what are you asking? And two, like, why do you keep every time I speak saying hearsay? Like, it got to the point Johnny Depp was like started to say something and he was like stopped and paused and was like, is that hearsay? Like, can I say this? Like, it's so bad.
Wow. That's, yeah. Yikes. That sounds like quite the clusterfuck over there.
Yeah.
And in other news, Gabby Petito's family is filing a lawsuit against Brian Laundrie's parents, saying that they went on vacation with Brian knowing that he had killed Gabby and that they knew the whereabouts of her remains. So they're like, which I mean, we all kind of speculated all along that they had knowledge of what was happening and chose to not reach out to police or do anything about it. So they have filed a lawsuit against them. So we'll see, kind of where that goes, what the investigators find and how they end that.
Yeah, it might just be my tinfoil hat, but I'm pretty convinced that they got a deal probably from the FBI to tell them like where Brian was and they wouldn't get charged, because like suddenly his family starts helping and they're like, we found him. Like,
it is very suspicious. I agree.
I mean, maybe not, but especially if they're not really being charged with anything, because I mean, even harboring a fugitive, like, anything. So I think they got a deal somehow, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, let's get into today's case that has quite a few resources. Bugspace.com, biography.com, people.com, autopsyfiles.org, a documentary which was called What Happened, Brittany Murphy. That's an HBO Max original. And I used Morbid episode 170, Mysterious Death of Brittany Murphy. So the world was stunned when Brittany Murphy mysteriously died in 2009 at the age of 32, and many of the circumstances surrounding her death is still a mystery. So Brittany Murphy was born on November 10th, 1977 in Atlanta, Georgia, to Sharon Murphy and Angelo Bertoletti. So Angelo was heavily involved in like organized crime. It was kind of speculated he was like in a mob kind of thing. So he spent most of his life in and out of prison. And as a result, Angelo and Sharon split when she was 2 years old. Brittany, that is, not Sharon. So
thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. Sometimes I just say it and I'm like, I can just hear a commenter in my head. Just, you got to get ahead of the haters.
Yes.
So Brittany and Sharon moved to Edson, New Jersey shortly after the divorce, and Brittany became very interested in acting and performing, and to encourage her talents, Sharon did enroll her in Vern Fowler's School of Dance and Theater in Colonia, New Jersey when she was 5. So she took lessons here until her early teens, and Sharon said she always just had really high energy, and she seemed like she'd be like a show person, like she was very bubbly and energetic. She loved anytime she was on stage, it was like she just shined. If there was like a camera, she was like living her best life. So she was also described as kind and personable and very genuine. And even at a young age, she showed a lot of potential. So by the time she was 8, Brittany knew she wanted to be a star. She was like, I want to be an actress. I want to be in Hollywood. I want all that. So she did try to convince Sharon to get her some headshots, hire a manager, and drive her into Manhattan for some auditions. And she spoke frequently about how she wanted to be on TV. And finally, when Brittany was 12, Sharon caved and was like, okay, fine. You've been bugging me for 4 years now. I'll do it. And almost immediately, Brittany got jobs in commercials. And she also made brief appearances in sitcoms such as Murphy Brown and Boy Meets World. And since she was gaining success, Sharon and Brittany moved to LA in 1991 when Brittany was 14. And in 1991, she landed a huge role as a regular as Brenda in the sitcom Drexel's Class. I personally didn't watch this one. I think I was a little too young.
No.
I think it was only like one season, but I don't really remember it.
Me neither.
And when she wasn't on set, she was studying at John Burroughs High School in Burbank, California. And like I said, that show only did last one season. And she got a few other minor roles in like Frasier, Sister, Party of Five. She was doing just kind of like one-offs and different TV shows. And she did enjoy doing TV shows, but she was like, I want to be like a movie star. Like, I want to be in the movies. I don't want to just be on TV.
I feel like a lot of like actors and actresses too, like they have a specific like which one they want to do. I mean, of course there are some that like do both, but I feel like you you have one that you really stick with, you know.
And in 1995, Brittany landed a role of Ty in Clueless opposite Alicia Silverstone, and this just launched her into the national spotlight. I mean, Clueless is a modern take on Jane Austen's Emma. It's a huge success. We all still talk about it.
Yeah.
And it made more than $11 million in its first weekend at the box office in 1995.
Yeah.
So after this movie, a lot of people in the press and someone in an interview kind of said she was huggable but not fuckable, and insinuated like she wasn't pretty enough, like she has to be like the ugly friend or whatever. You know how people do in Hollywood. It sucks.
Yeah.
So then after this movie, Brittany did get extensions and she dyed her hair blonde and she lost a lot of weight. And so rumors now kind of started that she had an eating disorder or a cocaine addiction. You know, to quote like the Casey Musgraves song, it's like, oh, like if you're not losing weight, like you're just fat. Oh, well, you're losing weight now. Well, you must be on drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like people can't be happy.
You can't win. Yeah.
So Brittany really did dismiss these rumors. She was like, no, like nothing, like she just lost the weight. Like it's not anything like that. She was a ballerina as a child, and she said it can do some like odd things to your body, because people were saying she kind of looked anorexic, and she was like, kind of just happens like when you're a dancer, like your whole life your body just kind of looks a little different. And she also said she was too scared to do cocaine because she did have a heart murmur, and she was like, I don't want to mess with that. Cocaine and a heart murmur, not a good combo.
No.
So Brittany got a lot of roles after Clueless. She was in Girl Interrupted, 8 Mile, and Sin City, which she got to star along like Angelina Jolie, Winona Ryder, Eminem, Bruce Willis, Jessica Alba. Those are all pretty huge names, so getting to be in movies with them is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And she also had a brief off-screen romance with Eminem, so that was like a pretty big thing, like when 8 Mile came out. And she also had a longtime role voicing Luann on the animated show King of the Hill.
Which I did not know until reading the notes for this episode. I mean, maybe I heard it before and then it just like left my brain, but like I was shocked to learn this because I've watched a lot of King of the Hill and did not realize that was her. So
yeah, I feel like that happens on like a lot of these shows, is it's like, which those like jobs are the best because you just come in probably for like 2 days and make a bunch of money.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy how it's like so many people can just be on it and like you not realize it. So then she also starred in Uptown Girls, Just Married, and Riding in Cars with Boys, just to name a few more popular movies. These are all very, very popular movies she's in during this time. And she did start dating her Just Married co-star, Ashton Kutcher, in 2002. So they had a lot of off-screen, like on-screen and off-screen chemistry, but they did break up shortly after. And she had been engaged to Jeff Kwetnitz. I think I pronounced that wrong. I don't know how to pronounce it. He'll never come up again. But he was
What if he's listening to this podcast and he's very offended?
I'm sorry. He's the CEO of a Hollywood talent agency, so get me a job and tell me how to pronounce your name. But that ended in 2004, and then she also became engaged to Joe Macaluso, and that ended in August of 2006. So a lot of people were saying, like, Brittany just really wanted to, like, be married and settle down. Like, she just was ready to get married and start a family, and that's just, like, really what she wanted. Like, your career's taking off, and now she kind of wants that other part. And in 2006, she also landed a role in Happy Feet, which is a widely successful movie. Like, I remember seeing it in theaters, like... So around this time in the early 2000s, especially after the breakup with Ashton, Brittany was like getting horrible media about her. So again, they're saying she's on drugs and that she was like hard to deal with, like on movie sets, and that she was crazy. Perez Hilton wrote a lot about her, and we all know Perez Hilton is not known for saying nice things.
No. If Perez Hilton is writing about you, it's not going to be something pleasant.
Yeah, and in the documentary, they did show, like, this one clip of her from, like, this award ceremony where she was supposed to be, like, reading, like, the category and, like, the people who were, like, nominated, and she, like, kept messing it up. And so people were like, why is she being, like, so ditzy? Like, they thought she was on drugs then because it was kind of like she just, like, couldn't get through it without, like, messing it up or something. So, like, people were kind of like, some seems off, but, like, people were mean, but still.
Yeah. Which I've also heard, too, from a lot of, like, performers that getting up on stage and delivering, like, a personal speech or even something like that where you're, like, hosting an award show is very different from, like, acting, like, your script. You know what I mean? Like, they're completely two completely different skill sets. Clearly, I have neither. But so people sometimes will think that, like, something's wrong with them or they're, like you said, on drugs or whatever, when it's like, no, they just don't do well at that kind of, like, speaking, even though they're, like, a performer. It's a different type of situation, you know?
And also, like, you could be nervous and, like, you're at an award show where there's some alcohol. You might just be a little drunk.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you're nervous and you're like, okay, I'm just going to put back a few drinks and I'll be fine. And then you're like, oh no, I'm kind of drunk. Like, happens to the best of us, right?
Courtney's like, right, guys?
Right. So in May 2007, she did marry British screenwriter and director Simon Monjack, and they had just met in 2006, so it was, like, very, very quick. They were married at their home in a very intimate ceremony, which was performed by a rabbi, and most people didn't even know they had been, like, officially engaged. They were like, we knew they were dating, but it was very, very sudden. And they did fly to Louisville shortly after to attend the Kentucky Derby, and many people who saw them there said they were very affectionate, they were inseparable. But after this, they rarely did leave their house. It seemed like they just never really wanted to go out. They just wanted to stay home. And a lot of her friends were a little concerned about Simon. Like, they thought he was just kind of controlling and odd. Not to comment on someone's looks, but I did not see them two paired together. Like, when you look at pictures, like, just, you know, going from, like, Ashton Kutcher to an Eminem to Simon Monjack didn't add up in my brain, but, you know, everybody's, you know, got your own preference, I guess.
Maybe he had a great penis, you know?
We can only hope, I guess. Little side story, just because we're about to get into some real serious shit, so I'm going to go ahead and tell this story. Last night, Kevin and I were out with a few friends walking down the street, and this guy in a car just drives by and yells out the car, "Nice cock," to Kevin. And he just goes, "Thanks, man." And it was just like,
oh my gosh.
Like, Kevin was so quick on responding. Just like, thank you.
I can totally see that. And I also want to tell a side Kevin story while we're here. So when Courtney and Kevin got married, we were trying to decide if it was time to send the photographers over to, like, the guys to, like, get pictures of them getting ready. And so I called Kevin to see if they were, like, dressed and ready and stuff, and he didn't answer. So I just texted him and said, "Are you dressed?" And, you know, it was, like, super quick, and obviously it was the day of the wedding and things were just, you know.
Yeah.
So this was a month ago at this point. And so my birthday was last week, and so Kevin texted me, "Happy birthday. Yes, I'm dressed."
Yeah, he was, like, about to send it. He was like, funny. "You think she'll get it, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think she'll get it."
So, yes, I laughed out loud. It was good. Anyway.
Okay. We just needed that little buffer because things are about to get really sad, so.
Yeah.
So, Brittany was Simon's third wife. So Simon's first wife said Simon owed her $50,000 and that he had a weird, fraudulent past. She also said he was kind of controlling, and apparently it appeared that he was trying to control everything in Brittany's life, like, including who she talked to. So it's like once they got together, he just, like, took over everything. Simon's mom, Linda, says Simon from a young age was able to charm anyone. He had a very high IQ. His brother James said from a very young age he'd been able to, like, manipulate the environment to how he wanted. They were, like, with teachers and, like, other kids and, like, everything. Like, he could just, like, really charm and manipulate them. Mm-hmm. Simon's father had died when he was 16, and his mom, Linda, said he was really never the same after that. Like, he was still witty and funny, but it really felt like something in him, like, died after that, like a complete, like, personality change. And Linda did say, like, he would live very much in the now and would just fall in and out of love easily. So he was just kind of, like, dive headfirst into, like, you know, falling in love and then just as quickly fall out of love.
Mm-hmm.
She said he was in a good place when he met Brittany, and she believed they were very much in love. And despite all the unease about Simon, Sharon did love him. And Sharon and Brittany had lived together when Brittany and Simon got married, and Sharon just stayed living there after the marriage. So it was just kind of like they were all staying there. And a fun fact about the house, it was Britney Spears' old house. So Brittany Murphy had bought it from her in 2003.
That's a pretty cool little connection there.
Yeah. So at this point, Brittany's career seemed to kind of be in a dip. These drug rumors hadn't really helped. She had fired everyone. So Simon was now her agent, manager, everything. So Simon's like completely taking control over everything. Simon had also outstayed his visa, and he had a few like pending warrants out for him. And so this was all presented to Brittany, and she was like, I don't care. I love Simon. It's fine. And they eventually said, like, Simon would start driving her to work. And if she had, like, a break in the day, like, he would stay and she would just go sit in the car with him. Like, she wouldn't hang out with her coworkers. It really seemed like he was isolating her from everyone. And so word was kind of getting around town now that Simon's her agent and that he was kind of crazy and overbearing. And so people just stopped calling Brittany for roles. And she started going straight to, like, video movies, like, you know, ones that go straight to video, thrillers, slashers, like a complete difference from like these classics she's in. Mm-hmm. And now she's in these like not great movies.
It's like B-list movies, yeah.
Yeah. Like a Sharknado kind of movie.
Yeah.
So in 2008, she did get a film called Across the Hall. The director said she seemed very bright and energetic, and she was very excited about the project. And he said soon, though, he was starting to see some, like, red flags. She was 3 hours late on the first day. And Simon was, like, trying to order a sandwich from the director. He was, like, the director, like, walked up and he was like, yeah, I'll take a sandwich. And he's like, I'm not the person for that. And said he also kind of seemed out of it. She would just completely forget all of her lines during filming. And the director said, like, she would come to set in a very good mood and happy. Then Simon would come, she'd spend time with him, and it was like her mood completely changed. Like, she would be a completely different person. And she also did not have access to her email or her phone anymore. So anyone who was trying to communicate with her, Simon read it first. And then maybe he would reply for them. So, yeah. Not great.
No.
And it's also 2008 when, like, phones are really starting to take off at this point. Like, everyone has a phone. Everyone, like... So the fact that he just, like, took that away from her was, like, pretty big red flag.
Yeah, definitely.
She also started to refuse to do intimacy scenes. Mostly these were just, like, kissing scenes, not even, like, real raunchy stuff. Just kind of even kissing, like, stuff like that. And she was like, I won't do that with anyone that's not my husband. So the director at this point is like, I'm about to just cut you because, like, you knew what this was getting into it. But Simon overheard it and was like, oh, no, she'll do whatever you want. Whatever you want her to do, like, she'll do. So he comes in trying to, like, change it up. I guess probably he knew if she gets cut, they don't get paid. So he's like, I gotta fix this.
There goes his money, so yeah.
Yeah. And in one of her final films, the makeup artist came to set and was told Simon was now Brittany's makeup artist. No, Simon did not have any experience in makeup. She said he'd just taken a red tube of lipstick and had, like, drawn lips outside of her natural lip line. Not even, like, trying to overdraw with a lip line, like, just the red lipstick all over. Her blush was lopsided. Her hair was greasy. And she says, like, another role of the makeup artist is, like, you have to watch the monitor to see if the makeup changes so they can fix it between takes so everything seems, you know, like it was, like, in one scene.
Yeah.
Simon wasn't doing that. He was just not watching. He was just like, it's fine. She looks good. Like,
It's bizarre behavior.
Very, very weird. The makeup artist said at this point she was like desperately thin, like very, very thin. She said she'd never seen someone so thin, and it looked like it was almost painful for her to move because she was just so skinny. Then in November 2009, Brittany was cast in her last film called The Caller, a horror movie filming in Puerto Rico. So she was accompanied to San Juan by Simon and Sharon. And 2 days into the shooting, she was fired and replaced in the film because Simon got involved and either hit or slapped someone and got her fired. So it seems like a lot of these, like, oh, she's difficult, don't hire her, is coming a lot from Simon. It's like, we love Brittany Murphy, but you don't want to deal with the husband. Like, you just don't want
not worth it.
So she did become sick after returning, and they said they were treating her with some, like, over-the-counter medications. It also seemed like Simon was kind of keeping her up late. She wasn't getting a lot of sleep, and she was sick, and they weren't really taking her to the doctor. Like, she wasn't getting the care she needed. And on December 2nd, 2009, Across the Hall did premiere, and the director saw her, and he was like, she was, like, extremely sweet and proud, but she seemed very frail. And he said her hands were shaking, she was very thin, but she wasn't acting strangely. He was like, this was kind of the Brittany I saw when we were auditioning. You know, it was like her, again, not this, like, other Brittany who would kind of, you know, come out when Simon was around. Then, on December 20th, 2009, 911 received a call from Sharon to come to 1895 Rising Glen Road because Brittany was passed out and not responding. So, media and paparazzi surrounded her home quickly, obviously. I mean, you know, those paparazzi, they gotta be there. They were all waiting, like, hoping Simon would come out, like, waiting on him. So Ed Winter was the LA coroner at the time. He also worked on, like, Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson, like, all around this time. He responded to the residents and said both Simon and Sharon was there, and Sharon was crying a lot, and Simon kind of appeared to be under the influence and was, like, pacing around, and he was like, something just didn't feel right. Like, just didn't feel like it should. They said they were up late and that she'd had some flu-like symptoms, and he'd said, you know, we were in Puerto Rico 2 weeks earlier, she became ill. And in the morning, Brittany went to the bathroom, and Sharon discovered her unresponsive on the floor. So they carried her into the shower, ran cold water on her, but they didn't start CPR until the 911 call.
And once investigators got there, they looked around the house, and they saw on Simon's nightstand there were 90 different medicine bottles with several different names on them. They also found a few in Brittany's name. So it has been said that it's common to get medicines prescribed, like, under your name and also an alias, so you can enhance the doses. Like, let me get multiples of these so I can take more of that.
Which is illegal. Don't do it.
Yes, don't do that. Which the original gossip in the media was pretty obviously an overdose, because when someone's so young and appears healthy, didn't really have any, you know, suspicions leading up to it, that's what most people are going to say. So in addition to the previous drug rumors, Simon also requested no autopsy, but an autopsy was required because, like, they have to know how she died. Like, she was 32 and in good health.
Which is
in general.
so weird.
You know, it wasn't
to me. Like, if, like, Kevin died at, like, 32 and, like, I thought he maybe had some flu-like symptoms, like, he seemed kind of, like, sick, but, like, you're just like, no, it's fine, I don't want an autopsy. Like, it's kind of weird.
I don't need to know. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I feel like if my dog died suddenly with no warning, I would want an autopsy, you know? Like,
yeah, it's just like...
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But Sharon was the beneficiary of Brittany's estate, not Simon. Her memorial was on Christmas Eve, and everyone said that she just loved Christmas. And afterwards, Sharon stayed living in the house with Simon, which is kind of odd, but, you know, maybe they're just grieving together, doing their thing. But a set of pictures did come out with them, like, together, like, holding a picture of Brittany. So it does look kind of odd and more like parents that are, like, grieving together versus, like, a husband and a mother-in-law. Like, they're
weird.
Yeah, their intimacy with each other does not seem right here. They were also heavily criticized since everyone speculated foul play in Brittany's death. So they're like, did these two have something to do with it? Are they together? Is that why like, what's happening?
Yeah, because everyone's kind of suspicious, and then you come out with these, like, couple looking like pictures, and you're like, what's happening.
There was also a really odd interview with Larry King. Larry asked about Simon requesting no autopsy, and so he answered, like, talking about Brittany's body and how it was curvy in all the right places and so beautiful, and, like, how can he ask her mom to cut it up? Like, what? Why is that your...
because he's like, how am I supposed to say, like, in front of her mom to this guy, like, cut her up? It's like... Yeah, it was very weird. Very weird. Like, I saw a clip of it, and it was like... It's like... I don't know. It's like almost like he didn't see her as a person. He saw her as, like, this beautiful, like, body and curvy. And it's like, okay,
like, I can't desecrate her body.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, but... so again, just very creepy. He was, like, talking about how smooth her skin was and just weird. And Sharon also seemed kind of out of it. But of course, Simon, like, takes control of the interview. You know, Sharon just kind of yields to him, like he does with everything. And their driver that night said that they did this, like, tearful interview, but they felt it was, like, a hoax because they were acting fine, like, when they came out. So, like, they gave this interview where they're, like, all upset, and they get back in the car, and then it's, like, they're acting completely differently. So they're like, this is odd. Again, could just be two people grieving and just making choices that don't make them look good, because anytime something happens like this, we overanalyze everyone's behavior. Everyone grieves differently. We never know, you know, how you would react in the same situation, so you can't look too much into stuff like that, but it is odd, especially, you know, the circumstances surrounding her death. They did hire a publicist about a month after her death because of all the speculation. And in February of 2010, Simon did a tour of his house on camera. So he's showing pictures that he had taken of Brittany. They did have a lot of security at their house. And when asked why, he was like, we've been targeted. Like, kind of implying that, like, the government was watching them. Again, weird. Like, what?
Yeah, like, it wasn't even like, oh, she's a celebrity. People come and try to see her. It was like, the government's watching us.
Yeah, like, someone's after us. Like, what? He also showed, like, where she was found and where she had fallen. Weird. He was giving descriptions of what the paramedics did when they got there. And he also admitted in this tour and interview that sometimes Sharon would crawl into bed with him and cry. Again, if this is how y'all are grieving, okay, but you have to realize that's not really an appropriate thing to say, right? Like, you have to acknowledge that it's odd.
Because, like, the camera guy, they were like, this bed looks slept in on both sides. And he's just like, yeah, she'll just crawl in and we'll just sleep together. I'm like,
no. Also, during this tour, they found medications on the bedside table for a Sharon Monjack, which obviously is not Sharon's last name. That's Simon's last name. So, yikes. Linda, who is Simon's mom, commented on Brittany's death, and she said that when Brittany died, he called her, and he was just devastated and cried on the phone for 2 hours. He was in shock for months, and she said no one could really get to him. He then started getting increasingly sick. And Linda also said that she had spoken to Brittany a few days before her death, and she had been very sick. She told her that she didn't feel good, and even how she was scared of dying because of how bad that she felt. So, of course, as in most cases, the husband does get a lot of side-eye when his young, healthy-appearing wife just suddenly dies. And a lot of Simon's past was discovered during this time. There had been rumors that he would frequently lie and date pretty rich women until he spent all of their money. Seems like a pattern here. And it did come out after Brittany's death that he had a daughter that Brittany did not know about. And he had been paying to put the daughter through a private school in England. And he had another child as well, a son who lived in France. So after her death, we find out that she did not know that her husband had 2 children. So huge red flags.
And he was probably using some of her money to put one of those children through school.
Exactly. So some of Brittany's friends, with the help of Simon, were putting together a memorial service to honor her. So one friend had planned on putting together a video with some of her performances, and at this time, Simon started the Brittany Murphy Foundation, but he also sent out an email to friends and former coworkers requesting money. And in the email, it said to attend the memorial, they would have to contribute money, like several $1,000s, not like bring $5-10. So really tacky and just like a money grab. The press did pick up about it, and so it just evaporated, and there ended up not being a memorial, but very weird behavior after your wife's death.
Yeah, could you imagine, like, if I died and Kevin like sending out an email being like, I'm starting up this foundation, but basically you have to give a lot of money to attend her memorial. And it's like, I'm sorry, what?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, totally legit. So in February of 2010, Brittany's autopsy was completed, and in the different tests, they ran one on her blood cells. So they tested the hemoglobin, which are the red blood cells that carry oxygen. So Brittany's was a 3, and the normal range is 12 to 15.5. So not good, very off here. It seemed that she was really anemic, and these are like life-threatening levels that would require a blood transfusion. They also did a test to see if her lungs floated in water. So they're supposed to float because your lungs should be full of air, but 3 parts of her lungs that were tested did sink. So this implies that she had severe pneumonia, and she probably had this for quite some time, based on the severity of these tests. The toxicology report came back, and there was no alcohol or any substance abuse drugs in her system. All of the drugs in her system were prescription medication or over-the-counter medications. So they found diazepam, lorazepam, and nordiazepam. Yep.
Sounds good.
Sure. So lorazepam is used to treat seizures, which Brittany had no history of having as far as anyone knew. Diazepam and nordiazepam can both be used to treat anxiety. They also found some levels of hydrocodone, methamphetamine, and ibuprofen, but none of the levels of these drugs seemed to be of abuse. It seemed like they were just all components of prescriptions that she did have. Again, she was sick. She was taking medicine.
Yeah, but it is like... That's a lot in your system.
Yeah.
Like why are you taking so many pills?
Yeah, definitely. So the anemia in itself would have been fatal, and the pneumonia by itself would have also been fatal. And the drugs in her system on top of that could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. So she had these other factors going on, and then like just too much medication that her body could not process and handle. So not really an overdose, but like she was so sick and these medicines weren't helping. They were making things worse. So her final cause of death was pneumonia with contributing factors of iron deficiency. And if she had been taken to the hospital, they could have started treatment. So like she likely would have lived if they would have gotten her the help that she needed when she was sick. But a lot of people didn't think this autopsy sounded right, and many still questioned her death. Then on May 23rd, 2010, Simon was found unresponsive, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. So what is happening?
Yeah.
Roger Neal, who was Sharon and Simon's publicist, said that he had gotten a call that night from Sharon, and she was saying, please come here, it's happening all over again. I'm living Brittany all over again. And by the time Roger got there, he said there was media everywhere, that he couldn't even get to the gate. He said the last day that he saw Simon, he had come out of his house and had been sweating a lot. He had a cigar in one hand and a cognac in the other, and he would be talking to him, and he would like drift off to sleep and then wake back up and continue the conversation. So very weird behavior. Seems like he's on something. Seems like something's not right here.
Yeah.
So his cause of death was determined to be community-acquired acute bronchopneumonia. And the toxicology report also showed multiple medications. So very odd that 5 months after Brittany's death, Simon dies of pretty much the same thing. And of course, the conspiracies are going wild at this point. So one theory, obviously, was that something in the house was making them sick, like mold. So Roger did say that in one window of the house, he did see mold all over it and on some doors, and a lot of their symptoms before their death, such as disorientation, feeling sick, and headaches, could have come from mold inhalation. However, the medical examiner said that she found no signs of mold in her lungs, but it could be possible that it weakened their immune system. So again, just another contributing factor that bizarrely led to these deaths. They were going to have someone from the health department come to check out the house, but Sharon declined it because she was selling the house anyway. What? Like, if you think that there's this, like, toxic mold that's killing people, you're like, I'm going to sell it, so you don't need to test it. It's fine. We'll just kill someone else. It's okay. Then Brittany's father, Angelo, comes out and says that he believes she was poisoned. Brittany's stepbrother, Tony, also said he thought there could be foul play. Angelo went on TV saying that he didn't want to speak about it, but he really believed that she was murdered by poison. So if you remember, Angelo wasn't really in the picture much. Sharon wasn't a huge fan, and she said that he really only started to come around when Brittany started making money. But he did hire a private lab to do some testing on a hair sample, and they found high concentrations of 10 heavy metals in her system. And so they're saying, like, this could have been how she was poisoned. And Angela wanted her to be exhumed to do further testing. And he was also saying how strange it was that Sharon was okay and Brittany and Simon were dead. Which makes sense. Like, if there's something in the home that's, killing everyone, how is she completely fine? So his theory was that Sharon felt threatened because Brittany and Simon were talking about having a baby and moving to New York without her. Again, this is all speculation. He did finally back off from the media in 2017, and he actually died in 2019. So now the internet starts to speculate that Sharon killed her daughter and her son-in-law. So theories were thrown around that Sharon and Simon were a pair who killed Brittany for her money, then Sharon killed Simon in order to take it all. But Sharon and Brittany were really close, and she just adored Brittany, and many people who are close to the family don't believe that she would be capable of something like this.
She was also the beneficiary of Brittany's estate, and I can't imagine Simon had anything but debt.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, maybe he would, be trying to, control her or whatever, but you have no ties to him. You could just leave with the money.
Exactly. Doesn't make sense. And another expert looked at the testing and realized that the hair tested was not from the root of the hair. So in order for the root to show metals, it would have to be in the system for a long time, but none of the samples were found in the root, but in other parts of the hair. So these heavy metals could easily come from hairsprays, dyes, other things, because they weren't in her bloodstream. So in order for this to be something that could have poisoned her, the root of the hair would have to show it to indicate that it was in her bloodstream, but that was not the case. And Brittany obviously dyed the shit out of her hair very frequently, so it's pretty obvious that these heavy metals would be in other parts of her hair. Again, along with hairsprays and different products. I mean, you're a movie star. You have all kinds of stuff in your hair all the time. Heavy metals are in all the products that we use, unfortunately. So, again, this theory doesn't hold any weight here.
And in her autopsy reports, which some people don't believe are real, there was none in her bloodstream. There was also not necessarily any signs of mold in her lungs either. So it was these kind of theories, it's if you believe the autopsy, these theories couldn't exist, but people don't believe the autopsy. So
many still say that they were murdered, or that Simon murdered her. They believe that someone was bribed and the autopsy was forged. They think that maybe they were targeted, that there's some bigger conspiracy here. Like I said, still a ton of theories surrounding this, not just that two young, healthy people randomly died of pneumonia type illness. I don't know. I mean, it is definitely possible, for sure. It's a very freak thing that could happen, but to happen to two people in the same house in 5-month span, bizarre, just completely bizarre.
So, what do you think happened?
I don't know. I think I don't buy into the theory that the autopsies were forged or anything. I definitely think they were ill. Maybe they were exposed to some weird toxin or I don't know, a random bug illness or something when they were out of the country. I don't know. Maybe they were exposed to something like that led to this death. You know what I mean? And with Brittany, she was so thin that could have weakened her immune system. Her body wasn't able to fight off infection. Simon sounds like an alcoholic and a drug addict, so that probably weakened his immune system. I think it was just a bizarre set of circumstances, but I do think there was some underlying factor here that was missed somehow that contributed to both of them. That's my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
So my theory is, I don't think Simon murdered her, but I do think he came in and he controlled her and kind of obviously she got really thin dating him, and he probably put her on all these medications, completely controlling her, keeping her up late at night, probably not letting her eat like she should. Her body was probably not as nourished. And then she got sick and he did not take her to get help, which would have helped her. So I don't believe he murdered her, but I think through neglect he contributed to her death. Because I think if she would have gotten help, got taken to the hospital like you normally do when someone's that sick, because 32-year-olds should not be dying of pneumonia in 2009. So I don't really think he murdered her, but I definitely think her being in a relationship with him contributed to her death. So I kind of think it was the way, she was treated and the kind of spiral she got sucked into with him is really just kind of what led to her death.
What do you think about his death and being so similar?
I think it would kind of be the same of him not taking care of himself and being like,
Yeah.
They could have had like a lung viral disease that had like developed into pneumonia, and his developed into pneumonia. And just like you're just like over medicating yourself and not actually like getting help. And he didn't look healthy at all. He didn't take care of himself either. So I wonder if it was just that. I do think that part is like pretty suspicious, but like,
yeah,
if maybe, you do get sick and you just neglect it, like, and you're putting, like, you're smoking cigars when you have pneumonia, and you're drinking cognac when you have pneumonia, and you're, taking all these pills in addition to all that, like, your body's just gonna deteriorate,
Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. So yeah, that is the very mysterious death of Brittany Murphy and her husband, Simon Monjack. So let us know what you guys think. What are your theories? Have you guys heard theories that we didn't cover that you think have some weight to them? Let us know what you think. Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
Well, shoot. I forgot I have to come up with a perk of the week. Okay. I'm going to say the book I am currently reading. I'm almost finished with it, so hopefully it doesn't turn bad in the last, 50, 60 pages.
I hate when that happens when you're like, I'm scared to give this recommendation because what if the ending sucks?
So, it is called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and it was written by V.E. Schwab, I think is how you pronounce their name. Basically, I've had this on my book list for a long time because Jodi Picoult recommended it, and anything she recommends, I will immediately read.
Yep,
but
same.
It's very different and just kind of different than anything I've ever read before, and I think it's really well done, and it's really good, and I cannot wait to finish it. I'm so close to finishing it. I'm just so ready to finish it. But yeah, so that'll be my perk of the week. Everyone go read it. It's really good. Tell me what you think about it, because I have a feeling like something crazy is going to happen. So we'll see. But
I'll have to add that to my list for sure.
It's pretty good so far. But yeah, that's my perk of the week. Jaclyn, what's your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, just got back from a week-long vacation. It was amazing. We started in DC, where we met up with some family, and they watched Millie while we went to the Lights concert, which this is my third time seeing her and Andrew's fourth time seeing her, I believe. Andrew's absolutely in love with her, so we go see her every time she's on tour. This is her first post-COVID tour, so that was super nice. And then we went out to New York City, which I've never been to and I've always wanted to go to. And we had an absolutely amazing time. We just walked around the city. And, if I was doubting that I was back to my pre-pregnancy shape, walking 15 miles a day wearing a 22-pound baby confirmed for me that I'm doing okay. So that was nice. Yeah, so that, it was a lot. But it was definitely more... I thought it would be more challenging to take a vacation with her, but it went really smoothly, so I'm very happy for that. Obviously, weren't able to do some of the things that we would have done without a baby, and, we're back in our Airbnb by, 8:30 every night to put her down. Still late for her, but, so some adjustments having a baby, but it still worked out really well. And also the main reason that we went up to New York is that I got to see Paul Holes speak in person. Amazing. I mean, just absolutely amazing. He was on a book tour for his new book, Unmasked, so I got to get a signed copy of it, and I got to hear him speak, talking about some of the book, talking about his life as a forensic analyst, and then now doing these cold cases that he works on and TV shows and his podcast, The Murder Squad, and, just all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it was just amazing to get to see him speak in person, to breathe the same air as him,
be in his presence.
Yes. And he just, he looks as good in person as he does in pictures and videos.
He's so hot.
Just, I don't understand how I can simultaneously be attracted to this man and also want him to be my grandfather, but somehow it works, it's just, it's all he's fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, that is my long-winded perk of the week.
I definitely, because Murder Squad is on a little bit of a break, and I definitely miss it. I miss hearing, still listen to like 2 other of Billy Jensen's podcasts, so I hear him quite frequently, but I miss Paul Holes and like their little banter, and Polly and Steven and all that, so.
Yes. Yeah. So it was super nice. Yeah. So if you guys want to tell us about your love of Paul Holes, or what you're reading, where you're going on vacation, are you going on vacations since COVID? How does that look for you? How do you feel about it? Tell us all the things. We are on Instagram at Caffeinated Crimes Pod. We are on Twitter at Caff Crimes Pod. That's CAFF Crimes Pod. We are on Facebook at Caffeinated Crimes Podcast. You can email us at caffeinatedcrimespod@gmail.com. We are on TikTok at Caffeinated Crimes and YouTube at Caffeinated Crimes Podcast.
And if you feel so inclined, you can give us a little bit of money each month and get a few little bonuses. We just came out with bonus 21, and in like 2 weeks, I think, bonus 22 is coming out. So quite a few, bonuses that are backlogged there that you can catch up on. And we also have, you can get a pin and sticker, Discord access, monthly hangouts, just all kinds of fun stuff, quarterly gifts. We try and make it fun. If you have any ideas of anything else you would want or to put in there that would be relatively easy, because again, 2 full-time jobs. Jaclyn's a mom. I try to have a social life and stay out too late. Sleep deprived for 2 very different reasons.
Yes.
But you can do so at patreon.com/caffeinatedcrimes. And if you feel so inclined, you can also give us a rating and review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. It just helps us get recognized, and that would be amazing. But in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.